Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and today's guest is Muse Lokajickova, speaking on medicine of the feminine. Muse practices revolutionary care for the generative systems. She has 15 years of hands-on practice weaving tools from Western herbalism, indigenous medicine, and classical Chinese medicine. Her practice is built on her unique methods of uterine repositioning, internal pelvic floor manual therapy, and holistic gynecological care that follows the guiding force of the heart and nervous system. Through her work, Muse has helped a lot of women both get pregnant and have healthy pregnancies and births. Folks can work with Muse via distance consultations and her Sovereign Vagina Masterclass Series, a canon of tangible tools for pelvic health that help women understand their bodies and take empowering action towards health on a daily basis. Her website is Medicine of the Feminine. Hi, Muse. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So this is going to be a really fun topic to cover. And I really learn something new from every single guest that I have on here. But this one in particular, I feel like we're all going to be learning some new stuff about medicine of the feminine, and essentially what does that mean, and how can we apply it to our own health and well-being as women. So let's start off with just sharing, who are you and what do you do and what's your story?
Well, so my name is Muse, and that's actually a nickname that I've had for at least, I think 14 years. Came from being a superhero on a bike ride across Arizona. And I've been studying generative systems health for 20 years and practicing hands-on for 15. And my work has evolved a lot over the years. And what I've come to understand is that this name, Medicine of the Feminine, that came to me in 2008 when I opened my private practice, it's a school of study that I feel we are all in, and in training ourselves to be able to care for our bodies from a place of devotion, be in service to one another and the earth, and be able to receive instruction directly from our bodies and from the natural world. So I know that's a lot. I have been working hands-on since 2005, and my understanding of this more esoteric breakdown that I just shared has really come from my hands-on work. I started out just wanting to help people understand their cycles and bleed more easily and navigate gynecological issues. And one thing led to another. I studied uterine moving massage with Rosita Arvigo and internal pelvic floor work with Tammy Kent. And I completed my master's degree in acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And weaving all of these different medicines together, I have found a very consistent current. When the receiver on the table is able to inhabit the space of their pelvis, something really profound happens. And over the years, I saw this shift in people when they got up off the table after a session, regardless of what we were working on, regardless of the tools that I pulled from my toolkit to apply for their case. I saw this very profound shift where I felt like I was seeing more of them, and I would hear people speak much more clearly and articulately and just be more anchored in their beingness. So that's basically become the crux of my practice. What is that? How can we access that day to day? And how can that inform the ways that we make medicine with our bodies?
Wow, that's really fascinating and profound. I know Mama Gina talks about how as women, our power comes from our pussy. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from you as well. Our pelvis, which is where all of our reproductive organs are located, our chakra, our second chakra. This is a very powerful area for women. And I think in some ways, for a lot of us, it's been neglected or ignored.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I love the term generative organs, because whether we're reproducing or not, our organs are generating all the time. We're generating hormones and blood and uterine lining, and it really is the seat of our intuition and creative potential.
Wow, so cool.
If we're not birthing babies, we're birthing something else. And often when we are birthing babies, we are also birthing ourselves, our career, our families. We're all birthing all the time.
As women, right? Like this is something quite unique and special to women.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, I've come to discern that my work is really specific to the organ systems. So for me personally, I've actually stopped using gendered language in my practice, although I do primarily work with cisgendered women, just because I want to be very sensitive to the trans movement and people who are in bodies who don't identify as women, but have female anatomy, and people who identify as women and don't have female anatomy, all of the variations. So I've actually stepped away from using the language women's health over the years, because for me, I really feel like it's the uterine system, it's the ovarian system, it's the pelvic system that is really what I'm called to work with and engage with, regardless of gender expression or, the language that we use to define ourselves.
Interesting. So what kind of like the people that come and work with you, what exactly are they looking for support? I mean, I heard dysmenorrhea was probably a common issue. I know I had personally consulted with a Mayan abdominal massage therapist to do some uterine repositioning and vaginal steam baths to help with my dysmenorrhea years ago. And it was really fascinating work. So I could see why that was so impactful. I think a lot of times women think that painful periods are normal because culturally we've been conditioned to believe that, but they're not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yes. Our body is asking for something for sure. So I do, like I said, primarily I have worked with mostly cisgender women, and I've been helping folks navigate painful periods for sure, missed periods, so not ovulating, wanting to get pregnant, difficulty conceiving. I've worked with folks through pregnancy. I've assisted a few births. I've worked with a ton of folks postpartum with pelvic floor restoration work. Definitely. I've also worked a lot with digestive issues because my work has been very hands-on and working with the abdomen and the root of the body. So I've ended up working a lot with digestive issues and also urinary issues, low back pain, sacrum and tailbone pain, things like that too.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that kind of work that you do with the people?
Sure. So my hands-on work is now on a pause because of COVID and because I also live in Brazil now, pretty remotely. But my work for a long time consisted of consultation, hands-on assessment, body work, acupuncture, often herbal prescription or supplement prescription, especially for working with hormone balancing or increasing the richness of the uterine lining, enriching the blood for more robust periods. And my body work has a pretty unique influence from a few main teachers I've had. One, Rosita Arvigos, who I learned the uterine moving massage from, Tammy Kent, who I mentioned too, with the internal pelvic floor work, which makes up a good part of my practice. I would say has been about a third of my practice is doing pelvic floor work, hands-on pelvic floor work. And then I also learned a lot about cording the nervous system through touch and breath with my mentor, Mark Jensen in Santa Fe, who's a chiropractor by training and license. And now that I'm working remotely, I'm still applying a lot of the same tools, but I'm obviously not working hands-on. So I do a really thorough assessment of the blood for menstruating folks, of Chinese medicine diagnostic signals, and then I'm going from there. But my main focus is how can we make medicine every day for ourselves? what are the simple ways that we can take care of ourselves from orientation of devotion rather than we're supposed to do this or we should do something? How can we love ourselves so deeply to the point that we are motivated to make a positive change for ourselves because we know it is in service to our wellness?
Wow. Yeah, I call that mama self-care, and that applies to certainly people prior to becoming mothers as well. But I think we tend to neglect ourselves, especially as caretakers, when we're taking care of children and partners and elders, and our body becomes neglected.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And the current, cultural and allopathic medicine paradigm is very much there's something wrong. We have to fix it or avoid it. We're still learning culturally to lean into what is the root of the issue, which I find is often not only physical. There's emotional material wrapped up, potentially ancestral, familial patterning in there, what I call soul level material, like who are we here to be? What's our true calling in life? And how are we realizing that and living that day to day? If we're not able to connect with that, there's often a big disconnect for us, and we can feel ill in a lot of ways when we're not connected to our true purpose in being.
Right. Right. Our body is giving us signals that something's off. And it's so interesting, when there are physical symptoms, people tend to really search for physical root cause or physical reason. And that's only part of the picture, right? Certainly if you're in a toxic relationship or toxic job and you're feeling unfulfilled or off purpose, your body's not going to like that. It's going to let you know that it's time for a change. And it's important to listen to those signals.
Yes. Yeah. And I find that the root speaks particularly strongly or loudly when something is out of alignment in our life or we have unresolved emotional material. Tammy Kent says the root of the body always tells the truth. And I like to say the pussy don't lie as just an extra kind of level of sass there.
Mm-hmm.
and how strongly our root can tell us that something's not okay when we're going against our own internal knowing, when we are allowing someone else to override our boundaries, or whether someone is just blowing past our boundaries. The root of our body will always let us know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because of how the nervous system is the nexus. The nexus of the nervous system is in the root. So chiropractic work has actually always really fascinated me because I'm so interested in the nervous system.
Yeah. Chiropractic is all about the nervous system. And that's what I love about it, because I'm able to help identify some root cause and, help create alignment and optimize nervous system function. And through that, help bring education to people about the physical, chemical, and emotional stressors that are creating alignment issues so that they can make lifestyle changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I work a lot with the breath. I find that most people are not naturally breathing down through the root. And of course, our lungs are not expanding down into the root of our body, but I'm talking about an expansion that happens when there's freedom all the way down the spine and through the nervous system, where the breath moves the thoracic diaphragm, the chest, the abdominal diaphragm, and the pelvic diaphragm. So when we're breathing, our life force is actually washing all the way through our spine. Which I often tell folks, this is our indigenous breath. It's what we're born with. I personally haven't worked with babies who have experienced a lot of birth trauma or serious medical issues around birth. So the babies that I have held have all had very intact breath down through their root. And
they're belly breathing. That's what's intuitive and natural. And to your point, as we get older and we're stressed and we get into more of our sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, we start to breathe in opposition. And that creates stress on our nervous system and certainly doesn't oxygenate us as well as when we take that nice breath. So when we have a breath, and it's funny, I just went through a diastasis rehab training, and as I'm teaching people how to breathe properly, inhale can be confusing because when you hear inhale, you visualize your belly coming in, which is how most people are breathing. But really with an inhale, we want the belly to expand passively.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, I find it can be helpful for us to just focus on really letting go with our exhale. I believe our body knows how to breathe us. Like we are born with this intuitive, inborn knowing of how to breathe in a way that moves our chi all the way through our spine, all the way through our root. So I feel that it's often really caught up in the exhale. And a lot of different breath practices focus a lot on the inhale. I like to really focus on the exhale. Just let go with the exhale.
Get the stress out of the body, right?
Yes, the exhale is the big exit way. It's the greatest ventilator of our system.
Can you talk more about that? Like when you're teaching people with breathing, how you walk them through it?
Yeah, I breathe with them. And I say, go ahead and really let go of your exhale. And I do it too. Like you're making a really big sigh. And, you don't have to do anything special with your inhale here. We're just opening a space of practice for your body to remember how your breath can move more fully through you. Your body already knows how to do this. So here we're just going to keep letting go with your exhale. Let your jaw relax, let your lips relax. Make sound as you're doing through. Let your exhale just really tumble right out, like it has a life of its own. And then we can start just with curiosity following our inhale. Let your consciousness follow your in-breath. Just show up in the places where your breath is touching. And keep letting all the way go with your exhale. So that's usually what I'm doing in a session, distance and hands-on.
Well, I already feel lighter. That was helpful.
And this is what I feel like I have stumbled upon in my work is when we're able to inhabit our root with our breath and our consciousness, we have access to more of ourselves. We have access to the truth of who we are. We have access to our anchor in our place in our life and on the earth. And only the breath can do that. We have an expression in Chinese medicine that says, "Qi goes where breath flows." And then, when we're wanting to affect any positive transformation in the pelvis, we have to have our life force on board. So for any gynecological issue, any pelvic issue, preparation for birth, certainly, I am always focusing so heavily on how can we breathe through our root more? How can we inhabit this space with our consciousness more? I find coming down there often is opening a vault of a lot of unresolved emotional material. So I have a lot of big emotional expression that happens often as part of treatments as people come to contact these places in themselves that haven't necessarily had their full attention.
So it makes sense to me, someone, for example, who experienced sexual abuse as a child could have a lot of stuck emotions in their pelvis. But it sounds like any type of unresolved trauma, not necessarily sexual, can also be stored in the pelvic area as well.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I basically find that there is unresolved emotional material in every pelvis because I think because it's such a main processing center for our nervous system. It's the most sensitive and receptive aspect of our body. So it makes sense to me that any emotional experience we process is processed through our pelvis.
Wow, that's fascinating. And the other thing that comes to me, because I do know the actual neurology, and there's so many nerves in our sacrum, our sacral plexus is just loaded with nerve endings. And when I think about a woman laboring on her back and having her weight push against that sacral plexus, how that could so much intensify her labor contractions and just make it so much more challenging to go through the labor process, which is why a lot of women, end up with an epidural to help with that. But how if we were in a position using gravity to help baby come down the birth canal and not having pressure on our sacral plexus per se, how that would just help the whole process move a little bit more efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Or just even freedom to move more in labor.
Yeah. Yeah. So when there's stuck emotions in the pelvis, which sounds like it's quite common or perhaps universal, the breath work I hear can be very powerful to help move some of that stuck energy. But I think for a lot of us, there might be some unconscious stuckness, right? So there's some things that we're aware of, but then what if it's something we're unaware of? How do we access it and release it?
Well, I think that's the beauty of allowing our body to breathe itself. We don't have to know everything. And often when there's a big emotional process happening in a session, I'm moved to remind people this is a great time to feel now, understand later. We're often not going to be able to understand all of the layers that are in us. That's also the beauty of acupuncture. And I think chiropractic, any of these systems of medicine that are working on multiple levels of our being, give a passageway for this material to unwind and move towards resolution. I think we're often not going to know what it all is, but I definitely encourage a lot of journaling, like the kind of journaling that you put in a crappy notebook. So you can put all the crap in it. I think pretty notebooks can be problematic because we tend to censor what we write in them. So I'm a big fan of free writing in a crappy notebook as a way of holding up a mirror for ourselves to see more clearly these different aspects of our being that need attention, and giving those emotions and prior events that we perhaps weren't able to process or feel fully at the time it happened, a platform where it can live outside of ourselves. So it's not just tumbling around in us all the time. The other thing I really love to encourage is simply laying our own hands on our body. The heart channel system runs through the chest and down the arms and wells up in the palms of the hands. So simply giving ourselves our own loving attention and touch is really powerful medicine.
I love that. And that is just such a simple way to show self-love to our body, and doesn't require any appointments or any financial expenditures. And there's an opportunity to connect. I think that's one thing I see in my practice is for a patient who's brand new to chiropractic, and perhaps hasn't gotten really a lot of body work in their life as an adult, they tend to be quite disconnected from their body. And I think part of that's like a survival mechanism, but to me, it's so beautiful to connect more deeply with our body and really listen to the needs of our body and respect those needs. And you can't do that if you're not connected. So just putting your hands on your body is a great first place to start that connection.
Yeah. And exhale.
And exhale.
Yeah. And I think you're right. What you just said about a lot of adults not having a lot of connection. I think it's because things are really hard. Life is really hard, and emotional pain is really painful.
Yes,
It's really painful. There is no pain quite like emotional pain. But I also see how these really simple practices of ventilating our breath and laying our hands on our body, giving ourselves our own devotion, I believe that it builds our nervous system resiliency. It builds our trust in ourselves so that we lay down pathways. I feel like we form new synapses. This is my theory. I feel like we form new pathways that give us the resources to be able to navigate these really hard prior experiences, current experiences, whatever it is that's really hard in our experience.
That makes a lot of sense to me because, the work I've done, even with somebody like Tony Robbins, as you're doing personal development and growth and wanting to kind of manage your emotional state at a level, at a higher level, so to speak, it requires a strong physical foundation. Like nothing can happen above that if that physical foundation is off kilter. Yeah. So the body is really, that's it. It's the foundation. And I also appreciate what you were saying about the exhale and connecting to the root, because that's really a wonderful way to ground ourselves. And when we're grounded, we're able to really be in touch with our intuition and our purpose.
Yeah. And just have access to all of our own resources. I mean, I feel strongly that being grounded is a tangible state. It's not a kind of fluffy concept that we can, maybe we have it, maybe we don't. I feel like, when we're grounded, we are rooted through our pelvis, literally.
Right. Yeah, that's right. We are. And anybody can access that. You don't have to be a monk sitting on a mountain, meditating for hours to have the access to that grounding of your root. I mean, this is something you can do sitting at home and a chair, just putting attention to that, literally feeling that root coming out of your pelvis and going deep into the earth's center. That's all it takes. It's really something that can be quite simple if we just put a little conscious awareness around it.
Yes. Yes. In Chinese medicine, in classical Chinese medicine, we talk about the 8 extraordinary vessels, which are the 8 channel systems that govern the greater context of our development and life path. And the first 3 of those 8 extraordinary channels they originate in the pelvis. So the first channel is what I primarily work with. It's called the Chongmai, or the vessel of blueprint. The vessel of destiny is another name for it. And it runs through the deep center line of the body. And I think that it's actually the space in which the nervous system forms in utero. The Chongmai is said to develop
the neural tube.
Yes. The ancient texts talk about this channel being the bridge between heaven and earth, that at the time of conception or during conception, we receive a mandate from the heavens, as it said, of what our purpose is, like who we are and what our work is in this life. And the kidneys and the root of the body house our will, our capacity to carry forth that work day to day and live that destiny into being. And the Chongmai is this bridge between our heart and our root. And it's this deep central axis suspending us as human beings between the sky and the earth, which I just love that imagery so much. And I feel like is so helpful in understanding how we are so very deeply connected to nature.
Yes, we really are. And I know for myself, living in the city environment for so many years, it really, it was something I was really craving, because I was realizing that was kind of something that nature wasn't as accessible as I would have liked it to have been. And now I'm making more of an effort to go on hikes and go with my 3-year-old son. And that's been a lot of fun to just walk in the woods, something so simple like that, and just hear the leaves crunching under our feet and, picking up sticks. Yeah. Things that 3-year-old boys like to do.
Yeah, things I like to do too. I still pick up sticks.
Oh my goodness. I almost lost my eyeball today, but it's really cool, and it's fun to just walk through and just really take it all in. It's just extremely healing. And nurturing and comforting. It's almost, in my opinion, I felt like Mother Earth is holding me at a deeper level when I'm kind of immersed in the woods.
Yeah. And I wonder what you think about this. I feel like our nervous system is directly wired into the force of the earth. I feel like
Totally.
okay, great.
Yeah, totally.
Another working theory of mine that I love to run past people who have more experience, more training and experience working with the nervous system.
Yeah, I know that for a fact with my own system, because when I'm, going from my concrete high-rise apartment building to my concrete office, driving in my car, and not walking through the woods or, walking on the beach, there's a difference in how my nervous system is operating. And I'm not able to manage stress as effectively because I'm not able to discharge, right? There's a discharge component that we need to have. That's part of the healing, right? And when I'm not giving my body an opportunity to discharge, it's like it just gets stuck.
Yes. And I feel like this is really the cutting edge of science and medicine right here, is listening to nature and spending time in nature. I feel like there's still so much for us to learn as a species about how we can take care of ourselves and the earth. That information is already here. It's wired through us. It's in the earth. It's in the movements of nature, and it requires a different pace, a different kind of attention than we've built up around us and all our infrastructures to be able to tap into. But I feel like that's what the next step is.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you're saying that, I'm like, well, the indigenous people have known that for thousands of years. So this is what you're saying is nothing new.
No.
But we've just forgotten about it, I think is really the bottom line here, is we've forgotten all of that wisdom.
Yes. And I mean, thankfully, there are still many intact nations, indigenous nations, that we can still learn from. I mean, it's not too late for us to really amplify the wisdom that these people have been holding this entire time.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Have you been able to, I mean, now that you live in Brazil, have you been able to connect with any indigenous populations there?
The area that I live in Rio de Janeiro state, has been extremely heavily colonized. And there are indigenous people of indigenous lineages here, but there are no intact indigenous tribes in this area of Brazil. I have definitely met a bunch of folks who are indigenous. I have been exposed to some different indigenous ceremonies and traditions that are so beautiful. So I definitely have a lot more exposure to indigenous traditions here than I did living in the States, although I did live in Santa Fe, New Mexico for several years, and was able to experience a couple of really beautiful celebrations with the indigenous people there.
Mm. And it's, ideally, it's, sad to think that some of these traditions and cultures may be disappearing, but if there's anything we can do to help maintain them and continue them on, right, for generations.
Yeah, I try to follow any indigenous activists I find on Instagram or any outlet, I am following, getting the emails. Like, I really try to stay abreast of indigenous issues and donate and make calls. I'm not able to make calls from Brazil to the States anymore. I feel like there's a lot that we can do. And the first thing is just to really pay attention and listen and respond when something's being asked of us.
I had this amazing woman who was a patient in my practice years ago. She was an attorney for the UN and represented all indigenous people in the world. And she herself was Native American, and just fascinating, the stories she used to tell me, but how there's just been, how this protection, so to speak, was so necessary. And, from a legal perspective, right, to just help preserve and protect. So I just was really, I really admired her work.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of the legal agreements that have been made have been broken many times. I mean, just now, I think this week, there is a measure up for reconsideration in the legislature here in Brazil around indigenous land rights. That's just, I mean, it's insane that it's even a question of whether the indigenous people have a right to their traditional lands.
Wow. And that's interesting because I really have only been aware of the issues in the U.S. regarding that. And it's certainly, we know that's been a major issue for hundreds of years. But I guess it's also, this is a global issue.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Muse, do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, let's see. I can say we can always come back to be still with our own body. Whatever is happening for us, whatever kind of health situation we're encountering or trying to navigate, we can always take time to bless our body with our own touch and attention and let the medicine of our breath ventilate our system.
Beautiful. Well said. Well, thank you once again for coming on. This was amazing. I learned so much, and I'm sure my listeners are excited to learn from you as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, what do you think? Is Muse fascinating or what? I learned so much from this interview, and I really appreciate the mission and purpose that she's bringing to the world in advocating for women. And I also have an exciting announcement to make. My online program, Brayton Birth Method, is finally live. Check it out on my website, drlaurabrayton.com. And you can sign up. I'm only accepting 20 women for the holistic preconception module. And if you are thinking about having a baby and feeling like you're ready to start in the next few months, then now is the time to get on board, get educated, empowered, inspired, and join our community. Looking forward to seeing you there.